This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Coulrophobia. That's a term that some people might think is a joke, but it's no laughing matter to people who suffer from it. It's the fear of clowns, and it's more common than you think. Kalliope is an expert on releasing phobias. Her upcoming book is Replay Your Game, and she joins us on the line from New York. Hi, Kalliope.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for being on the program with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
I keep coming across people, and I keep hearing about this. People are actually afraid of clowns. And while I'm not one who's afraid of clowns, I can kind of see what they're afraid of. But from your perspective, where does this start? Is it something that happens to people as children and they grow into it? Or what is it about clowns that terrifies them so?
Well, typically what happens is that when people are kids, or even if when they are adults, they see an image of a clown or see a clown in person or on a movie, and for whatever reason, the image of the clown ends up scaring them in such a way that whenever they think of a clown, just the mere thought of it scares them. And that's because how they're thinking about him is making them scared. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when they think of a clown, that the clown is usually life-size or larger than life. So because it's so big in their mind's eye, it ends up having this dramatic response in how they feel. And they end up getting this fight or flight response to it that they wish they didn't get.
Is it a bit of an irrational fear? The reason why I bring that up, I've mentioned this on the program time and time again. I have a fear of water. I know it's an irrational fear. I've never been in a situation where I was nearly drowned or any of those situations. I just have a fear of water. Is it the same thing with any other kind of phobia, especially with clowns? Is it an irrational fear? There's no basis as to why people feel this way?
Well, let's put it this way. When you say that you fear water, is it all water? Is it drinking water? I mean, are you afraid? Are there times when you think you're going to drown just by drinking it? Probably not, right?
Right.
So the idea is that I'll ask you right now, when you think of water, is it life-sized or larger than life?
It's large bodies of water. Like, I won't get in a boat. No matter
right. Okay.
And when I say a boat, I won't get in a dinghy. I won't get on the largest cruise ship. I won't get on a boat.
Right. Okay. So if I'm to ask you this question, if you think of yourself on a dinghy, then the water seems a lot larger than you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. Versus if you were on a cruise ship, you feel large enough, and the water is smaller.
Not really.
In your mind's eye?
Not really.
Okay.
It's still a large body of water. Yeah.
Okay. But still you feel bigger.
A little, but
at least.
Not enough to get on one.
Okay, right. Not enough to get on a cruise ship.
Exactly. You won't get me on that either.
Right. So what ends up happening with any fear is that the fear itself, in how we think of it, ends up being this magnanimous size inside of our minds where it's just overwhelming. And so what I do is guide people on how to actually shrink it in their mind's eye so that when they shrink it, it becomes manageable, that they won't have the same response to it as they did as if it was big inside their mind. So yeah, basically any phobia, whether it be of a snake or a spider or crowds or water or clowns, it's basically the same mechanism as how they're thinking about it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the phobia is, but typically it's the same how of how they're thinking about it is the same.
Well, unlike other phobias, when it comes to the fear of clowns, other phobias are of things that are always what they are. That's not the case when it comes to a clown. Would it make a person feel better if they sat down and watched a person put on the makeup and become a clown? Would that help to alleviate the fear, or Is that not the case?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but I know a couple of people who've actually told me that it becomes an agonizing process because they're actually seeing the whole thing come together, right? And it's the end product that really matters here. And so basically a lot of the time I tell people, I think most of the time it's a matter of poor taste because a lot of clowns just have bad makeup on. Usually the colors are bleeding on their face and somehow the smile isn't exactly accurate. And it ends up being scary for most people. And so to actually put it on step by step and see it it's dependent on the individual because sometimes when you slow down a process like that and see it actually being built, it will break apart the fear for some people. And for some people, it actually magnify it. So it really depends on the individual.
If phobias, I'm just wondering, and again, we'll stick with the fear of clowns. Do phobias get worse the longer they are not dealt with? In other words, somebody who's a child who's afraid of clowns, are they more afraid of clowns the older they get?
It's dependent upon if they're thinking about it any differently. Because to generalize with all people, it really depends on the individual and the individual response. So, for instance, I just had a client who came in last week, and she had this fear for 20 years of a clown, of any clown. She couldn't take her kids to the circus because she couldn't be around the clowns. I mean, at some point, walking down the streets of New York City, she actually saw a clown inside of a store and left her infant baby in the carriage. It was a fight or flight response that she had. She just could not deal with it to the extent where she abandoned her child. Okay, that was totally irrational. And so that's what let her come to me, that something like this was just unacceptable to her. And so what we did was do some mind tricks, mind skills that I know how to do with people in the right state of mind, in a relaxed state of mind, because it basically changes the brain chemistry when they think about it. The minute I can get someone into a relaxed state of mind and even laugh about it when they think about it, I've changed the brain patterns inside the brain. So whenever they think about it, they feel differently about it. And that's basically where people want to get to, that they can think about the clown, but have a different feeling associated to it, therefore a different response.
Very interesting indeed. In the introduction, I mentioned your upcoming book, Replay Your Game. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep, and the full title is Replay Your Game, Erase Your Fears, Shed Your Stress, and Build Your Best Life Ever. Because so many people have these fears that cause them a lot of stress, that prevent them from having the connectedness with their families and friends, and basically the world at large. Phobias prevent people from living their lives the most that they can. People who have a fear of flying, they don't travel to places. I had a client who hadn't traveled on a plane for 20 years, and her kids were just entering their teens, and they had never been on a family vacation by plane. And so when her child started developing the same sorts of fears and phobias, she said, okay, I can't have this happening to my own daughter. And so that was incentive enough, and we went through some skills that are talked about in the book, step by step, that can guide you to get rid of your fears, feel better about things that you were once fearful about, repatterning the pathways in the brain to make it happen just by doing the skills, and so that you can start living your life with greater freedom and having the intimacy and love and connectedness with those people you love the most, and not only personally but professionally in business. And that's really what it's all about, creating more freedom for people.
People can find out more information by going to your website, which is buildingyourbest.com. That's buildingyourbest.com. Kalliope, thank you very, very much for being on the program with us. Most enlightening conversation indeed.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and all the best to you and your listeners.
Kalliope Barlas, author of the upcoming book, Replay Your Game. You can find out more info by going to our website at buildingyourbest.com. And you can also go to my website at thestufffile.com. Go to the What's On page for the show, which is show number 0362, and you'll find the link.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.